Hi, everyone. This is Adina here from Immigrant Finance, and we have a guest today who's going to tell us all about taxes for immigrants, which is such a big topic, especially around this time of year. So, welcome, Sonia Castelan of Castelan Tax Services. Thank you for being here to speak with us.
Thank you so much, Adina, for having me here. I'm really excited and I can't wait to share my story and hopefully to provide some insights on taxes as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So generous of you to share your expertise with our community on this really important topic that I feel like a lot of people don't realize how important taxes are until you start like scratching the surface with personal finance. And then you're like, oh, wait, there's all these ways you can keep more of your money if you understand how the tax system works, right? So we'll be diving in more, but let's start off with a question we always like to ask our guests about, just to hear a little bit about your connection to immigration issues, whether it's personal or family or the community you work with. Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh, yes. So my parents are actually Mexican immigrants and they were born and raised in Puebla, Mexico until their teens. They actually both moved to California where they actually met. And they
Oh,
then relocated to Brooklyn, New York, where they had me and my sister. So I'm not gonna lie, I don't have much memories of my times in Brooklyn. Probably one of the few things I remember is living in a basement in the
mm-hmm.
projects and taking the subway with my mom. Yeah, so thereafter they decided they wanted to move to Connecticut to seek job opportunities, and that's where my dad ended up as a cook, and my mom worked as a factory worker. And in Connecticut, they actually had two more daughters. So I am the oldest of the three. So it's
Nice.
all females. So the house was
Wow.
definitely crowded with females, my poor dad.
Yeah, I was gonna say your poor dad.
But yes,
Wow.
and obviously with the big household that requires them to keep up with the housing expenses, so my
Yeah.
parents definitely worked a lot of hours, and
Mhm.
and unfortunately they just couldn't afford daycare, so they put me in charge of basically babysitting my three siblings at the age of 11.
Oh
And
my goodness.
I'm not gonna lie, I really had no choice because, to
Right.
be taking on this adult responsibility, because my parents really needed to rack up the hours so that they can earn enough money so where they, are able to continue to pay the necessities such as like housing, food, and clothing so that we can all live
Mhm.
comfortably.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So you really understand from personal experience what a lot of people in our community have gone through and are going through, having immigrant parents yourself. So thank you so much for sharing that. And how did that kind of like get you started in this interest with finance and taxes? I imagine having that much responsibility from a young age had something to do with it.
Oh, yes. So my parents definitely did not teach any of my siblings or I personal finance. Like, I mean, probably the only thing that, at least from my mom, she just taught me you just have to count cash and write a check. And that was it. Like, there was no real discussion on finances or, saving up for retirement, saving up for an emergency fund. And so it was about like 3 years ago is when I began my debt free journey. And that all started
Mhm.
after I started to live on my own. And,
Mhm.
I left my parents. I decided that I wanted to just, have my own place. And at that time, too, I was already working for corporate America now for 4 years. So
Okay.
I was like ready to just move on to the next phase of my life. And obviously during that time I was still in my like mid 20s, and I was really excited about having my own place. I had this corporate job, and well, I still wanted to keep up with the party life with my friends, and so I literally went out to dinners, bar hop with them, even traveling. And
Mhm.
obviously to keep up with that, I was swiping my credit card left and
Right.
right. And then eventually, when I started looking at my checking account, no lie, it was literally little to nothing. every month
Mhm.
because most of my money was going towards credit card payments. And I had a really, really sad reality check. And that was because I couldn't keep up with my rent payment. And
Mhm.
I knew that I needed to come up with a plan to get out of this situation because it was hurting me emotionally and mentally, even at one point physically. It was making me depressed. And
Yeah.
so I knew I had to do something. So I figured, well, let me just start budgeting. So I went on YouTube, I went on Instagram, and I just started searching budgeting and personal finance. And along the way, I came across an opportunity to become a tax professional. Now, so I already have a background in data analytics at my corporate job and feeling
Mhm.
very comfortable working with large data. I was very drawn to the industry because of my experience working with large number. And I felt like, I really am passionate about helping other people, especially because
Mhm.
I didn't want people to be in the same situation that I was in, where
Yeah.
I was literally spending recklessly because I didn't know. I
Yeah.
didn't. So I really figure, well, I'm going to combine these two and see where it goes. And
Mhm.
so after I got my license, I started doing taxes for my friends and family. I was doing their returns. And then eventually they started to spread the word to their friends and family. And I started building up a clientele base. And
That's amazing.
it really was an exciting opportunity. I didn't know that starting something so small was going to turn something big. And so,
Yeah. A
so
lot of
yes,
people need help with taxes, and especially with the audience you're catering to. I don't know if you want to say more about that, but I know a lot of people in our community like don't have folks they relate to who've been through those same experiences that can guide them. So it's so incredible there's this opportunity to be able to talk about taxes with someone like you instead of like some old guy who's been super wealthy for decades and decades and can't relate at all.
yes. And when I was having these one-on-one sessions with the clients, the most common thing I heard from them was that their previous tax professional never went in depth as to why they were getting a refund or why they owe taxes. So I
Mhm.
realized that there is actually a gap in our community, primarily the Latinx community, where there are people out there just doing taxes and saying, here's your refund, or this is how
Yeah,
much you owe in taxes. And that's it. No
yeah,
education behind it. And
yeah.
I and as a professional, I for my clients, what I did is like I sat down with them and I educated them on the tax credits and deductions that they may be eligible for. And that is in child tax credit, their earned income credit, the education and medical deductions. So and it's very sad, like it's yeah, like there are people out there who just are not well informed. And I felt like
Oh
as
yeah,
as a tax professional and how much I care about my community, there was more to be done.
absolutely. That is so incredible because this is a topic that can be really dry for people and really hard to talk about and really hard to understand. It's even more than the typical finances of just like the numbers being overwhelming, but it's like the tax law. So I don't know if I mentioned to you yet, but in my profession, I'm an immigration lawyer. In addition to being a financial counselor, and in the immigration lawyer world, there's this saying that the only area of law that's more complicated than the tax law is the immigration law. Because it's like everyone knows the tax laws are crazy complicated. It's a beast, just like how the immigration laws are. So very cool that you have some personal experience with having immigrant family, and do work with immigrant clients.
Yes, so my
Okay.
most of my family are, all either ITIN holders or who just recently got their social security numbers now after they
Okay.
applied for residency. But majority of them are ITIN holders. And I understand that, there is, a mistrust with certain, professionals out there, especially for those who are not well experienced working with ITIN holders, because,
Yeah.
there is a lot of misinformation out there And,
Yes.
if one just really took on that moment to actually just really like do the research and educate themselves, like, listen, they're, the IRS is well aware that, most of these families are not from the States. They're from Mexico, they're from
Mhm.
Ecuador, Honduras, and they, will come in looking for job opportunities. And obviously, they will come in using a fake social in order to get a job. But just be aware that the IRS knows that, and
Mhm.
they are aware about that. Hence why they are encouraging you to apply for an ITIN so that you
Yeah.
can go ahead and do your part, as a patriotic bill to file a tax return so that you can start building history that you are
Yeah.
paying your taxes as an American.
Oh my gosh, you're gonna make me dork out so much because, like, let's get into the immigration law aspects for a second of why this is important. So we all know we've been waiting forever for immigration reform. It's been over 30 years since the last immigration reform, but the last major one was in 1986. And part of the eligibility to get status when they passed this law, giving a lot of people legal status, was to show you had been in the country for a certain period by a certain date. And one of the best ways to show that was to show you have been paying taxes. And that's also something that's, considered very favorably in immigration court by immigration judges to be able to show you've been paying taxes. So there's a lot of immigration law benefits to paying taxes. And I'm always telling our audience, like, the government has an interest in having immigrants who don't have status pay taxes because that's how they make money, right? Like, the government needs money to function. And so they don't care who it's coming from. And it's a very separate system from the immigration system. So, are you able to share like a little bit more why immigrants who may be undocumented, should feel comfortable paying their taxes and like what kind of benefits there are?
So, as you mentioned before, you definitely want to build history that you
Yeah.
are working and that you are, as an American, you being residing here in the United States, that you are paying your taxes. And, I know for some people that hesitate to even, file their taxes because they are afraid that the
Right.
IRS will report them. But that is not the case. The IRS encourages you to
They
file
want
a
the
tax return.
money.
They want their money,
Yeah.
especially if you're an independent contractor. Like, they really
Mhm.
want their piece of the pie. And you are, as an independent contractor, especially a lot of those who are immigrants, just be mindful that you are responsible to put aside taxes. That is between 15
Mhm.
to 30% of your taxes, because you are responsible to pay basically Social Security, Medicare, and self-employment tax. Um, I know for some people, as those who have an ITIN number, they don't qualify for Social Security or Medicare, but
Right.
that can change. Who knows? The system here, the law system continues to change, especially immigration. Like, the policy continues to change. So there is a possibility that that can help you in the future when you're paying your taxes. That you can be eligible to apply for status here, as you mentioned. Things are changing, and I really do hope that will change, because I have a lot of clients, especially my parents. I want them to become U.S. citizens,
Yeah.
and right now they're on the right track. They're filing, they're doing their taxes every year on time, and if they owe, they pay on time. And I want people to know, just continue to just build history. And you definitely want to build a credit, that you want to build yourself as a credible person, because from, I'm assuming, from immigration perspective, especially for those who are reviewing your case, they want to know that you are doing your part and that you're willing to continue to do your part if they were to move
Yeah.
forward with giving you the status,
Oh
because
yeah.
obviously they want good people working in America and to reside here and to build this country to the fullest.
100%. And, I do want to acknowledge, like, for our listeners, excuse my language, but it's fucked up that people have to pay taxes knowing they may not ever get those social security benefits. Like, that is not okay. Right. but there are all these benefits to doing it anyway. Like, for example, being able to make more income and grow a business, right? It's really hard to have a successful business where you make a lot of money if you're not paying taxes, right? I don't know if you can say anything about that, but like that's something I'm always talking about with our audience. Like it's a trade-off, you know, like if wealthy people understand that if they have to pay more taxes, it means it's because they're making more money, and that's like a good problem to have, right? And of course there's lots of loopholes they find how to pay less, but like you don't want to like avoid it, right? And then miss out on the opportunity to increase your income.
Yes. So I know that for those who are, interested in starting in business, especially those who don't have a social security, just know that there are ways you can open up a business. Like, for instance,
Absolutely.
you can apply for an EIN, that is an employer identification number. That's your first step. Once you have that EIN, and you can apply with your ITIN. Once you have that EIN, you can then go ahead and apply for an LLC within your state. And the LLC requirements usually ask for a social security or an EIN. I always encourage business owners to use the EIN. Just because it's just to protect one, to use their own social security or their own ITIN number. And also for the EIN, it can help you get a business account, because banks ask
Yes.
for that information. So once they see that you have an EIN and an LLC, then you can open up a business account. And some banks, they do require some, minimum to open up a bank account, but most of them, from what I know, open up less than like $50 and you'll be okay. And that's a good start. So, I know for some people, and I actually came across a client not too long ago who was interested in starting his own landscaping business, but he didn't know where to begin. And he was actually afraid that, like, well, I was looking up the LLC requirements and they were asking for a social. I'm like, you don't need a social. You can get an EIN. Let's
Yeah.
go apply for an EIN. It's gonna instantly be there. Once we have
Yep.
that letter, we can then go ahead, apply for an LLC using that EIN. Give it a couple of days. They'll process it. It's going to require a fee, just so you know. Most states requires fees when
Right.
you're applying for an LLC. But once you have that, that's it. Those are the two things you need in order to start business. Obviously, if you're looking to grow, you gotta, start saving, to start investing, start putting into your business. But just know, everybody, that despite what's been going on, especially like with racism in this country, just know that the Latinx small business owners are the fastest growing group of entrepreneurs in the
Oh
United
yeah.
States. And I will
Yes.
tell you this, that in the past 10 years, the number of Latinx business owners grew 34% compared
Wow.
to the 1%. And it was a study conducted by Stanford University. So
Wow.
just imagine that huge jump. So for all those who are listening, if you are really ready to take the step and become an entrepreneur, just follow the steps that I mentioned before, and you be on your way. And obviously, if you are, need more guidance, feel free to reach out to your local tax professional or to a local legal business attorney, or feel free to reach out to me. There are resources out there, and take advantage of it,
Nice.
because I personally would love to see the next community grow. We are thriving now, especially at these times. So, go for it, you guys.
I love it. And I love this like back and forth in the tax and immigration law perspective we're learning out about, because the other piece of it too is having a business is the best way to increase your income in general, but especially for immigrants who don't have status or who may lose their status, right? Or in between status, because you don't need a work permit to have a business, right? So all of those issues with immigration status and not having a work permit, they're about being an employee for someone else. There's nothing saying you can't have your own business. There's nothing illegal about that, right? So that's another reason, like from an immigration law perspective, to really think about your business. And then just with wealth building, you're going to make so much more in your own business than working for someone else, or at least have the potential, the opportunity to, right?
Yes. Yes. I mean, like, I know that some people think like, well, I don't know where to begin, or they feel like they don't have a lot of resources out there available for them. That is not the case. There are resources out there. You just, you know, find the right professional who is willing to work for you and provide you those resources. Because I know for my clients, if they're really eager to start something, for example, like the landscaper who really wants to start his own business, I in a heartbeat said, let's get you set up right now.
Yeah.
Here are the steps, and let's get you on the right path so that you can start building a profile as a business owner, and hopefully you can grow and start creating more job opportunities for
Yeah.
others, because as your
Yeah.
business grow, there's obviously you're going to need other helpers to help you with your business. So go for it.
Yeah.
I hope that, if my business, because I'm a business owner, myself, while I still have my corporate job, if my business scales, I in a heartbeat will hire someone else to help me. So because I want to give that individual an opportunity to start a career, and
Mm-hmm.
or start a new role or start something new. They have a job, and hopefully, you know, I can continue to hire more people, because especially in the Latinx community, I know that, some people are just, they're tired working for, no offense for white Americans. So I am making it one of my mission to, be one of the Latinx business owners who hire other Latinx,
I
because
love it.
our community needs to grow. I mean, right now we're thriving, so we have to thrive even more.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you so much for sharing all this. I want to pick your brain next about some tax benefits that you could maybe share with folks. So people who are totally new to taxes, and maybe they've never paid taxes, or they go to the person in their community and, like you said, never get that explanation of why they're getting that return or whatever. What are like a couple things you want people to think about of how they may be able to save on their taxes, or have a bit of a strategy?
So I would say for those who don't have dependents or not claiming any dependents, if you're a single individual, just make sure that you're continuing to have the appropriate withholding on your paychecks, because the thing is that, for those who basically are, earning more year over year, continue to adjust your withholding by filling out a W-4 form, because honestly, you don't want to overpay the government at a 0% interest when that money can literally go towards something else. For example, if you need that additional money in your pocket to pay off that, use that. If you want to use the money to invest in a business, by all means use that, or use it towards an emergency fund. That's why I always encourage people, like, you are or if you are overpaying the government, let's go ahead and make those adjustments based on your income that you made. So hopefully that we can get you close to zero, because I'm a big believer in, like, don't give the government any money, like, because, well, and don't overpay the government. Let me reiterate, overpay the government, because they're not going to give you anything out of that. They're not giving you interest. No, it's like ridiculous. So, oh, but they have no problem holding your money for a year or so at
It's a free
0%.
loan for them.
It's a free loan. So I say one of the things you have to do is make sure that you are making your adjustments on your tax return. For those who have family, I understand that, sometimes, obviously there are credits that do kick in that do result in a refund. Be mindful when you are getting those refunds based on the child tax credit or the earned income credit, or if you are contributing to your retirement account, and you did get a credit. I believe that is a non-refundable one. The savers The savers credit is a non-refundable one, but for like the child tax credit and the earned income credit, that is a refundable credit. Um, use those use that refund to start something, like start building a business. If you're interested in starting a business, build your emergency fund, or heck, contribute to your retirement or to your kids' retirement account. Those are some of the best way that I would suggest to you guys when you guys have a refund, because you want to build wealth, right? So why not just take on these steps, so that you're not letting it go to waste. Because I know for some people, when they get a refund, they spend it on liabilities, and what is that going to help with? Nothing really. Invest in assets, because those assets are going to take you places.
Absolutely. And there are a couple terms you use. I just want to define a little bit for people new to these terms. So the credits, do you want to explain a little bit of what a credit is with taxes?
Yes. So a credit is basically a dollar for dollar. So for example, if you have a tax liability and those credits kick in, for example, let's say you had a tax liability of $200, but you got a child tax credit of $250. What's going to happen is that the $200 is going to be wiped away because you had 250, meaning that the $50, which is remaining, is going to be your refund. So it's a dollar by dollar. And deductions are basically just a percentage that's being taken out of your return. So I am a big I love credits, because again, those are useful, especially those who end up with with a tax liability. Once those credits kick in, it knocks literally the dollars out, and it ultimately leads to a refund.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Thanks for explaining it. And then you also mentioned assets and liabilities. So I like to think of it as like assets are things that put more money in your pocket. So like investing is a great example, right? Or creating a business that's going to generate income, or your intellectual property from your ideas. And liabilities are things that take money out of your pocket. So just going to cause you to lose money. So like a credit card bill, a brand new car that's going to lose value as soon as you drive out of the parking lot of the dealership, right? Yeah. Is anything you want to add to that explanation?
Well, I think you pretty much nailed that one. I usually tell people, like, so what do you prefer? When I ask them the question, like, do you prefer to lose money or do you prefer to gain money?
I like that. That's very simple.
I give that, that imagery, because
Yeah.
from what I experienced, I don't like losing money. That's like the worst feeling ever. So when I think of liabilities, I'm like, I'm losing money. I just lost out of something.
Yeah.
And so when I, look at assets, I'm like, oh, it's helping me, it's growing, it's giving me something in
Right.
return. Like,
yeah, and this is such an important way to start thinking and like doing an inventory, what is an asset and what is a liability, and focus on growing those assets. And I actually hadn't thought about until now, like how taxes are part of that, but that makes sense. I guess, would you think of a credit or refund as an asset?
I I guess if you like think of it that way.
Huh.
I, hmm.
Probably like it's something different kind of, but
Yeah. Yeah. I won't get into it.
I was going on a tangent, but the point is we want to keep most of the money we can with taxes. Like that's the whole point of tax strategies, is my understanding, is like, how do we keep the most of our taxes? And there's nothing wrong or greedy or like shady or illegal about that. Like the tax code is written in a way to allow people to do that. And there's plenty of wealthy people who hire people a whole lot of money to help them do that. And so why not have the immigrant community also be doing that? Like the laws are available for everyone, right?
Yes, yes. And that's actually what I wanted to actually get into, is like,
Go
so
for it.
I launched my page, right? In, like, I believe it was like in late 2020. And I didn't put much effort into it. until last year when I decided like I wanted to show my face on the page. And I already knew from experience too that like taxes is a complex system. So I knew that it was very important that people know the basic of what's happening, with their taxes when they're being prepared. And I, decided like, it's fascinating to know that I was able to actually, from experience, take on a complex subject such as taxes and simplify it on my social media. And to use that to educate that to people that's on the platform actually became my mission. And I know that it can be very daunting for people, but I I made sure that, I try to simplify things without the whole tax jargon, because I know that people's attention span can be very, very small. So I try to just get them right to the point by, giving illustrations or breaking things down in like 3, 4 steps or whatever. Um, and, I know that obviously I'm not going to reach every single person, and, but I feel like my contribution in this community, in the Latinx community, is that what I know in my industry, I'm going to make sure that I simplify it, educate, and empower them to make better decisions.
That's beautiful. And you have a really awesome page. Like you've got great content and information. So everybody's got to make sure to follow. Tell us what is your handle before we forget to get there so that
Oh,
everybody can go look you up right now.
yes, it's a long one, you guys. So my apologies, but it's Castelan Tax Services. That is my IG. I do also have a website as well, so feel free to check it out at castelantaxservices.com. I do have some resources on there too, as well, such as a free tax prep checklist for those who are looking to get started to get their paperwork and their documents and what they need in order to prepare their taxes. And that is available for all individuals as well as joint filers and as well as entrepreneurs.
Wonderful. I'm so excited for folks to be able to check out all the great stuff you have. And just curious, what is kind of, the number one lesson, I guess, about taxes that you wished you learned earlier, maybe that you wished your immigrant parents knew about from the beginning?
Oh, that is a good question. I guess my number one lesson here is know where your money is going. Because if you don't know where it's going or where it should be going, then that's when you should know that you should probably get with somebody to help you with that. Because I wish I had somebody help me with that. But I encourage everyone, if you're feeling that way right now, if you don't know where your money is going, reach out to somebody. There are
Yeah.
so much out there right now. Take advantage of it while it's still available.
Yeah, like getting that self-awareness of knowing where your money's going. I totally agree that that is so important, and it's a game changer. I meant to mention when you were talking about your story of getting started with the budgeting, our experience was really, really similar actually. If I could just quickly share, so my husband immigrated to the US in 2013 from Ecuador, and we had no idea what we were doing with money, and we struggled a lot with money and finances for several years. We were living paycheck to paycheck, going into debt, both getting really underpaid, trying to keep his visa, being afraid of losing it all the time. And it all changed when we started looking up personal finance stuff on the internet and learned about budgeting, right? Like that was the game changer. Just to get that, bring it back to what you just said at the end here, like the number one thing, just starting to get that self-awareness of where our money was going and like starting to track it, and being more intentional about our goals and like, where it was going was like what tipped everything over. So I very much support your advice, because that was our experience, and it's only up from there. Then you can learn about, these tax saving strategies and investing and starting a business and just build upon that.
Yes, yes. No, I definitely agree. I mean, we learned a lot from, our experience for sure. And I feel like from
Yes.
that, it actually made us much stronger, if anything. I mean, look where we are now. We're educating now the BIPOC community, the Latinx community. And, and there's going to be so much more for us out there
Absolutely.
and for our community as well.
Well, that's a great note to end on. And thank you for all the work you're doing, helping to share this information with people. And I know you're going to be speaking to some of our students in our immigrant finance school program about taxes too. So thank you so much for doing that. They are so excited. I just told them about it last night and they were like, yes, like right before tax season, we can ask questions to someone who understands taxes. So thank you for your generosity, and let us know however we can support the great work you're doing.
Yes, no, thank you. I really do appreciate it. And I look forward to meeting your students. I'm pretty excited. They got me all pumped up now.
Yes, thank you. You're gonna love it. Everybody's an immigrant or family member of an immigrant who wants to build wealth. So it's awesome. It's an awesome group of people. Yeah.
Awesome. I look
Yeah.
forward to it for sure.
Thanks, Sonia. Take
Thank
care.
you.
Bye.
Bye.